Good day, everyone. So, our next topic for the subject is all about the human person flourishing in terms of science and technology. So, we have here our lesson objectives: identify different conceptions of human flourishing, determine the development of scientific method and validity of science, and critique human flourishing. Critique human flourishing vis-a-vis progress of science and technology to be able to define for themselves the meaning of a good life. So, first, what is happiness? So, in psychology, happiness is a mental or emotional state of well-being which can be defined by, among others, positive or pleasant emotions ranging from contentment rather to intense joy. So, when you talk about psychology, so it's either contentment or you are contented or you have shall be called as intense joy or you're happy. So to behaviorists, happiness is a cocktail of emotions we experience when we do something good or positive. So talk about cocktail meaning it's a mixture, mixed emotions. While to neurologists, happiness is the experience of a flood of hormones released in the brain as a reward for behavior that prolongs survival. So it is just like using a drugs wherein if you are going to use specifically shabu, so it's not actually the shabu that will make you high, but rather it's a it's a hormone found in your brain or produced in your brain called dopamine. Another question, is happiness a destination or a journey? So the hedonistic view of well-being is that happiness is the polar opposite of suffering. So when you say polar opposite of suffering, meaning opposite siya, like wala ka nag-suffer. So the presence of happiness indicates the absence of pain. So kanang giingon nila class nga if you are not being hurt, therefore you are happy. So because of this, hedonists believe that the purpose of life is to maximize happiness which minimizes misery. So mana class nga kita moingon ta nga maningkamot gyud ta nga ma-happy rather than katong ma-sad ta. While the eudaimonia, a term that combines the Greek words for good and spirit to describe the ideology. So eudaimonia defines happiness as the pursuit of becoming a better person. So the eudaimonists do this by challenging themselves intellectually or by engaging in activities that make them spiritually richer people. Okay, so was focus now on eudaimonia. So eudaimonia, which is good-spirited, coined by Aristotle, describes the pinnacle of happiness that is attainable by humans, and that's human flourishing. From Nicomachean ethics, philosophical inquiry into the nature of good life for a human being, human flourishing arises as a result of different components such as phronesis, friendship, wealth, power. While the hedonistic view of well-being is that happiness is the polar opposite of suffering. In ancient Greek society, they believed that acquiring this will surely bring the seekers happiness, which in effect allows them to partake in the greater notion of what we call the good. So as time changes, elements that comprise human flourishing change. People found means to live more comfortably, explore more places, develop more products, and make more money. So humans of the day are expected to become man of the world, supposed to situate himself in a global neighborhood, working side by side among institutions and a government to be able to reach a common goal. Competition as a means of survival has become past. Coordination is the new trend. So we'll emphasize hedonistic and the eudaimonia. So we talk about hedonistic class. The main objective of the hedonist is to become happy of whatever you have, either you are rich or poor, once gusto ko nimo nga ma-happy good ka. But in the eudaimonia, kanang gitawag nato class og you dream more. Okay? You acquire more. So mo na class nga naay mga tao nga dili pod makontento bisan if dato na sila or naa na nila tanan. So mo na siya ang eudaimonia. Okay, so ang hedonistic, you get contented and then you get happy, while ang eudaimonia, they reach higher purpose, and then that makes them happy. So let's now proceed to Eastern versus Western conception regarding society and human flourishing. For the Eastern concept, so focuses community centric. So individual should sacrifice himself for the sake of society, like the Chinese Confucian system. The Japanese Bushido encourage studies of literature, science, and art of greater cause. So take note you are going to sacrifice yourself. For example, class, ikaw magwangan, and then you decide, you tell your parents, mo trabaho lang sa ko, unya na lang ko muskwila kay ako sang pahumanon ang akong manghod. So that's the Eastern concept. While the Western conception more focused on the individual, human flourishing as an end. So Aristotelian view aims for eudaimonia as the ultimate good. So this is how it is class. Eastern conception focuses on the hedonistic view, while the Western conception focuses on the eudaimonia. So mo na ingon class nga for Eastern concept, moingon gyud ta nga to become happy, moingon ta nga dili ka dapat selfish, dapat manggihatagon ka. While the Western conception, which is based on eudaimonia, so mo na siya ingon class, dapat selfish ka. Why? Kay di man ka ka-help sa others unless dili nimo tabangan ang imuhang kaugalingon. So mo na class nga makaingon ta nga unsa man gid ay sakto. Well, it depends on your objectives og sa imuhang goal. It would not matter if you are practicing the hedonistic view or the eudaimonia. Okay, kay wala man na sila gaingon class nga si eudaimonia bad, si hedonistic bad, mas good si ko ano. They're both good. It's just ang ilang process lang maoy different. So we're now on science, technology, and human flourishing. So every discovery, innovation, and success contributes to our pool of human knowledge. Human's perpetual need to locate himself in the world by finding proofs to trace evolution elicits our idea of self-importance. Mo nagiingon class nga pangitaon gyud nato ang atong purpose. Ngano man? Mo nagiingon class nga there's always a reason nganong gipakatawag kita sa aning kalibutana. So technology is a human activity we excel in as a result of achieving science. So that's Heidegger. So good is inherently related to the truth. So science as a methods and results. Science stems from objectivity brought upon by a rigid method, claim to reason and empiricism. So these are the steps in scientific method. First, you're going to observe. So what do you mean by observe, sir? So kanang mugamit ka sa imong mga senses. You use your eyes, your nose, your sense of touch, your unsa pa may mga senses din nga magamit nimo pag-detect kung unsay or pag-detect kung unsay nahitabo sa environment. And then you are going to determine the problem. So unsa may na-observe nimo, unsa may problema. And then based on that problem, you are going to ask, and then you are going to formulate hypothesis. So you are going to guess kung unsa gyud reason. And then you're going to guess kung unsa gyud answer. And then i-check nimo kung sakto bang imong answer. So you are going to conduct an experiment. And then whatever is the result of that experiment, you're going to gather and analyze. And then after that, you're going to formulate conclusion and provide recommendation. So take note sa scientific method ha. So dapat steps na siya. Dili kay wala pa ka nag-experiment, wala pa ka nag-gather og information, nag-hypothesis na ka. Okay? Unya, nag-generalization na ka. Nag-provide pa gyud og recommendation. So muna kasagaran na to, masupalpal kay wala man ta naggamit og scientific method. So let's now proceed to verification theory. So a discipline is a science if it can be confirmed or interpreted in the event of an alternative hypothesis being accepted. Take note, a discipline is science. Okay? And then premium on empiricism takes into account those results which are measurable and experiments which are repeatable. So mabitan na class nga mag-away gyud na ang religion o ang science. Nga naman, kay sa science mo based man on sa iyang mga results, measurable and experiments which are repeatable. Di man ma-explain sa science, not necessarily nga di ma-explain sa science, but there are people who are practicing science nga kitid ang ilang utok. Okay? And then there are people pod nga naa sa religion nga kitid pod ang ilang utok pod, wherein basically on my part, I could always say nga the works of God is clearly very scientific. Nga maingon man na sila class nga, sir, it's not scientific, sir, it's the power of God. The power of God is uses science gali. Okay? So next, reject those which cannot be directly accessed as meaningless. So only those which can be observed should be regarded as meaningful. That's Vienna Circle, which is a group of scholars who believe that only those which can be observed should be regarded as meaningful and reject those which cannot be directly accessed as meaningless. So initially, this proved to be attractive due to general consensus from people, which happened to see for themselves and how the experiment occurred. So you're going to solidify its validity and garnering supporters from esteemed figures. So we have here an example. Suppose, for instance, this girl, Leia, has a theory that her classmate Ayan likes her. Good, she thought, I like him too. But how do I know that he likes me? So she began by observing him and his interactions with her. Several gestures she noted included his always exchanging pleasantries with her whenever they bump into each other, his big smile when he sees her, and him going out of his way to greet her even when riding a jeepney. So through these observations, she was then able to conclude that Ayan does like her, because she thought, why would anyone do something like that for a person he does not like? So muna giingon class nga ni gamit na siya og observation, and then later on nag-hypothesis na pod siya. As it turns out, however, Ayan is just generally happy to meet people he knew. He had known Leah since they were first year and regards her as generally okay person. It is no surprise then that upon learning that Ayan basically does this to everyone, Leah was crushed. She vowed to herself that she would never assume again. So unsa may nahitabo ni Leah? So si Leah nag-assume siya nga si Ayan ganahan niya. Kay nga naman, so nag-observe siya, nag-hypothesis, nag-determine the problem, and then nag-hypothesis, dayon editso siya og analyze niya, formulate og conclusion. Wala siya nag-gather og more data. So mo nag-ingon, nag-assume siya class. So based on falsification theory, as long as an ideology is not proven to be false and can best explain a phenomenon over alternative theories, we should accept the said ideology. So allowed emergence of theories otherwise rejected by the verification theory. So i-verify yun nimo class. And then encourage research in order to determine which among the theories can stand the test of falsification. Take note na it doesn't mean that you are already applying the scientific method is mao na to siya. No. basic pa lang na siya, class. Dapat mag-conduct yun ka og research. So, for Karl Popper, he aimed the production of new falsifiable predictions. Scientific practice is characterized by its continual effort to test theories against experiment and make revisions based on outcomes of this test. So, mo nag-ingon ni Karl Popper, class, nga it doesn't mean nga nag-conduct na sila og experiment and then they have the result is you are going to accept the result na. No, dapat imuha pa na siyang i-test na pud og balik kung the same ba og result yun. Okay? So, we are going to continue for the case of Leah and Ian. So, Ian is generally everybody's friend. He likes to be around people and generally aspires to become everybody's friend. However, there is this one girl, Leah, who seemed to not like him when he is around. Every time he waves at her, she turns away, and when they are in the same room, she avoids his glances. So through this, he concluded that Leah does not like him and does his best to show her that he is not a threat. He began greeting her whenever they passed by each other at the corridor, even going so far as calling her attention when he was in the jeepney and saw her walking past. So when they were able to talk to each other, he found out that Leah is just really shy and is not accustomed to people greeting her. He then was able to conclude that his initial impressions of her not liking him is wrong and thus said proposition is rejected. So mo de class nga si Ian nag-smile ni Leah kay nakabantay di si Ian nga si Leah dili mo tagad niya. Unya gusto man ni Ian nga everybody's friend siya. So there is no known rule as to the number of instances that a theory is rejected or falsified in order for it to be set aside. So there is no assurance that observable event or evidences are indeed manifestations of a certain concept or theories. So mo nag-ingon class abi kay naa kay mga ebidensya then makaingon na kang uy mudaog na ta sa kaso ani. Pwede kang mabali. Mo bitan na class sa law kanang dakpon kag pulis and then moingon ang pulis nga ma'am, sir, you have the right to remain silent because whatever you say may be used against you. And then once mo approach na pud ka og lawyer, moingon mangutan na pud ang lawyer. So far unsa naman di ay imuhang gipang tubag or gipang sulti. Okay? Or kung ang lawyer nimo wa ka nakabantay siya nga dili ka aware sa pangutana or wala ka kibaw sa pangutana, iyahan na niyang i-object. Muna may siya nga objection, your honor. Kaya ang ending unya class pangutanon kag pangutana nga wa diri og wa didto plus wala ka matudoi sa imuhang lawyer kung unsay dapat itubag ana, basin unya nga magpatakka na hinuon ka og tubag. Muna siya normal mahitabo class wherein ang victim mao na hinuoy mapildi sa kaso. Muna mangita gyud mo og maayo nga lawyer gyud. Okay? So that ends our discussion. And if you have questions, just write them in your notes and then ask it to me during our synchronous feedbacking. Okay, so enjoy your day.